Hey, this is Pastor Jay. I'm just sitting in the car in my garage because I was reading an article that said some of the things that we have to do sometimes during this time of being on stay safe at home and lockdown or quarantine, whatever it is sometimes we just got to get someplace outside of the house that is still safe for us to be reminded that we're a part of a larger world and we don't get caught up in the malaise of sitting in the house. But even with that, I was reflecting on a quote that I heard and I read from Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was this amazing pastor and theologian in the 1940s in Germany, who was an outspoken critic of the Nazi regime and what Adolf Hitler had going on, and even went to prison and then later on to a concentration camp where he died, standing up for what he believed was biblical truth. And Dietrich Bonhoeffer said in his book, Letters and Papers from Prison, he said, God does not always give us everything we want, but he does always fulfill his promises. And just for somebody who's struggling with all that's going on and being on lockdown and with your kids, or even if you are a single adult and you're sitting there in your apartment or your house all by yourself, remember the promise of God from Psalm 91, right around verse 2 or 3. God makes this promise that he'll watch out for us so that no pestilence, no diseases, no pandemic would come nigh unto our house. And so you may not have what you want. You may not have the freedom you want. You may not be able to go out to a restaurant and kick it like you want. But just because you don't have everything that you want, it doesn't mean that God won't fulfill his promises. And his promise is, from Psalm 91, that he would protect us in times like these. I'm reminded of the story leading up to the Exodus. In Exodus, right around the 6th or 7th chapter, there's this amazing story about how these plagues were taking place in Egypt, but where the people of God lived, where God's people lived, in the land of Goshen, Goshen, in the land of Goshen, God made sure that the same stuff that was hitting the country where they lived did not affect his covenant people who lived in that country. Our God can do some amazing things. He controls these aspects. And so I just want to encourage somebody. This isn't a time to trip out. Even if you got to go sit in your car for a minute to feel normal. You may not have everything that you want, but God always keeps his promises. So hold on to the promises of God. Listen, I love you. There's nothing that you can do about it. Hang tough.